Here on First Take, Alabama coach Nick Saban has tested positive for COVID-19 and will not be available for Saturday's game against Auburn. According to a statement released by the university, Saban received the positive test on Wednesday morning and is showing, quote, very mild symptoms. And because of that, the test will not be categorized as a false positive. Max, what's your reaction to this news?
Yeah. Well, obviously, you hope that the symptoms remain mild and coach gets better as soon as possible. I'd like to remind people that there's a lot of good news coming down the pike, like about a vaccine and vaccinations. And I think sometimes there's a tendency societally to kind of to relax a little bit, like, oh, okay, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, we can relax. But in fact, cases are raging more than ever before. I hope everyone is very safe and uses best practices in terms of mask wearing and social distancing to try to mitigate the damage of like the kind of spread of the disease. Obviously, again, just you hope coach gets better and remains with, at worst, mild symptoms and everything's okay.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. You're obviously focused on Coach Saban. Obviously, he's up in age, so you want him to, not have to deal with complications. You want him to be as healthy as he possibly can be. But this is a reminder. This is a reminder that COVID-19 doesn't discriminate, that it doesn't matter how successful you are, or sometimes even how much you pay attention to prevention, that this could be something you could track. You could test positive, and in testing positive, it is an unpredictable illness. And so we all need to continue to be smart. We need to continue to make sure that we are not only taking care of ourselves, but taking care of those around us. And I think that's the huge thing when you think about college football. What are these student athletes doing when they leave the facility? Where do they eat? Who are they hanging around? And where do those people do things as well? And that all comes back to a coach like Nick Saban, or to a coach like Herm Edwards, who coaches at Arizona State, who recently tested positive as well. And so you wish everyone who are in these situations where they come into contact with a lot of people, you hope that they are safe, but also that the people around them, especially some of these older coaches, take care of them by their actions as well.
Yeah, well, we hope everyone has a very safe Thanksgiving holiday. You can get more information on that story on SportsCenter at the top of the hour. And now let's shift our focus to what's happening tomorrow. There's an AFC North showdown, a rematch between the Steelers and the Ravens. Pittsburgh clinches a playoff spot this week with the win and losses by the Raiders and the Dolphins. They are undefeated and hold a comfortable lead in the AFC North. That must be a great feeling to have. Now, Max, would you say that a Steelers loss to Baltimore would be a big deal or no big deal?
It's a very big deal. They're undefeated in Week 12. Like anytime you get an undefeated team this late into the season, and look, I've rooted for Giants teams that were 10-0, who got, speaking of the Ravens, who got their teeth kicked in by the Ravens in the Super Bowl that season, in spite of starting 10-0. I get it. It's not like the most uncommon thing in the world. But when you look at this Steelers schedule, there are no unwinnable games there. And Pittsburgh's kind of been disrespected this season, People don't really believe. They don't really believe in Pittsburgh. But I'm here to tell you, this team has a chance to hand in an undefeated season. In the 16-game regular season schedule, it's only happened once before by a Patriots team, which had they not lost the Super Bowl with the miracle play by Eli Manning and Tyree and then the Plexico pass, had that not been the case, they would have been anointed the greatest team in the history of American team sports. Right? Like 2007 was a big deal. And no, the Steelers aren't making anyone imagine that they're in the Patriots class that way, but there are no unwinnable games. They'll be probably favored the rest of the way. And what happens if they do win? And this isn't undefeated. Like we could be watching something special here. So yeah, if they lose, it's a big deal.
You know what? I don't think it's a big deal, because when you look at these type of games and you look at these rivalries, you can lose. And it's not like the Pittsburgh Steelers have been so dominant this year that we couldn't see this happening. You have a Baltimore Ravens team that has its back against the wall, Baltimore Ravens team that hasn't played good football in 4 weeks, and a Baltimore Ravens team that understands that they want to resurrect their season, if they want to put themselves back in the hunt for not only a playoff spot, but say even give themselves a chance to fight down the stretch to challenge the Pittsburgh Steelers for the AFC North, they need to win this game. And there's nothing worse or nothing harder than beating a team talented. There's still talented players on that team that has a quarterback who can do such unpredictable things when they understand that they need a win. You think John Harbaugh can't find a way to fire up this team and get them ready for this game against the Pittsburgh Steelers? And the one thing I do know about the Steelers is they are looking at 16-0. The Pittsburgh Steelers are looking at finishing this game. So it's not like if you lose this game, it goes, oh, hell, we can't be 16-0. That's not the goals you start the season with. You start the season with the goal of winning the AFC North. And then you start the season with your next goal would be to host playoff games. And then it's to win the AFC. Then it's to win the Super Bowl. And so we can't look at it as that type of deal. You look at it like this is this game. If they lose, they still have all their goals at hand. They still have an opportunity to control their own destiny for the most part. And that's all you can ask for. And so to me, I think we will talk more, at least my thought is, we will talk more about how the Baltimore Ravens won this game and what does this mean for them going forward than we would talk about the Steelers, how they lost it, and what it means for them going forward if the Baltimore Ravens are to pull off this win.
All right, well, what do you say? Let's very, very quickly talk Hall of Fame. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, is a semifinalist. So, Max, do you think that he deserves to get into the Hall of Fame this year?
I do. I'd make him a first ballot. And I know he had a short career, relatively short career. Let's remember, he walked away from the game at the age of 30. Kind of like Barry Sanders, another Detroit Lion. By the way, there's not a lot of reason to stick around up there, is there? The futility of that franchise. One playoff win in 60 years. It's not his fault that he was on the Lions. He chose to walk away. It's not like he wasn't still good. He had 1,200 plus yards that season. Ryan, this dude had a season with close to 1,700 yards and 16 touchdowns. And the next season, he got better.